So let's check out the Fuso starting grid now. And what an extraordinary lap time achieved in qualifying by Craig Lowndes for the pole. First time for him here since 96.51 even. He had a couple of mates, Will Davison and Mark Winterbottom. They were also in the low 51s. Staggeringly quick times, very tight at the top. It's millimetres between them. Looking further afield, Whincup and Reynolds, Tander and Holdsworth. We've also got Slade and Jono Webb in the top 10. Just the top 10 margin, just to make the point once more. It's 0.18 of a second back to those blokes.
Frenchman Alex Bromard, it's his highest qualifier. James Courtney trying to salvage yet another poor weekend. He's last in the championship. Stevie Johnson and Tony D'Alberto side by side. There's Rick Kelly and Taz Douglas. He had a good day yesterday. He'll be looking to build on that again. Fabian Coulthard and James Moffat. James had a flat tyre in the final practice session this morning, went off at turn 4 pretty deep as well. Todd Kelly, who's still suffering from the effects of a cut foot. You should see him getting into the car. I've been watching him all weekend. He looks like a grandpa getting in there. So it's going to be hard work for him. Russell Ingall, as we know, on soft tyres. And we're pretty sure he's the only bloke to start this race with the soft compound. Jason Bright and Carl Ryan.
Blue one, thanks, mate. Blue
David
one.
Russell doing the job for Greg Murphy this weekend. David Wall at Wilson Security Racing bringing up the rear of the grid. And again, Murph, we know you're probably watching, so keep recovering quickly, mate, and come and join us in 3 weeks' time at the Hamilton 400.
All the angles are covered. We're on board with Michael Caruso, James Moffat, Russell Ingall. Threw us yesterday because I hadn't spotted the change of helmet colours for Rusty. There he is in the Super Cheap Auto car. Electrical drama for him yesterday with that car. He was running in the midfield at the time. This is James Moffat. Remember, back at the top of the show, we were showing you all the weird and wild stuff that was going on up at turn 6 on lap 1.
Funny point out of FPR. Mark Winterbottom, broken ankle, can't start the race. Well, Will Davison gets numbness in his foot at the end of the race. If they could somehow manage the two, they'd have the perfect blend. Didn't hurt them yesterday, though. So Davey Russell there, the Pepsi Max crew. David Reynolds, the Bottle O FPR Ford, under Rod Nash Racing's licence, and Jamie Whincup, second in the championship.
A lot of rubber debris built up off the line yesterday, and again making the point that those in the second half of this starting grid have to start in the middle of the corner. It's very difficult to do.
And at this place, it is all about the start. Davison got a fly yesterday. He got a good jump here, but it's a lot more even today against Lowndes. And they'll go side by side through turn 1 and 2. Really no advantage to be played out yet. You'd have to call it as Davison. He might take the lead up to turn 4, but Lowndes wants to argue the point. And Will Davison will take the lead up to the hairpin.
This is maybe because Lowndes has got track position and watch for Winterbottom as well. Van Gisbergen wants to round him up on the outside. Wow, what an opening.
And great save from Craig Lowndes. He was under maximum attack.
Well, Davison had run him out to the guardrail. He had no room. They made contact. He forced his way down the inside. He pushed Davison wide, and then he allowed himself to maintain the lead under that scenario. Very good start.
David Reynolds did get past Jamie Whincup, but now by the completion of one lap, Whincup gets the spot back. So Lowndes leads him through. Then Will Davison, Winterbottom, Van Gisbergen, Whincup, Reynolds, Tander, Holdsworth, Courtney and Slade make up our top 10.
Lowndes is really good at that guerrilla warfare. When it's the seat of the pants stuff, cold tyres, they're not up to temp, you've just got to grab the thing by the scruff and it can get at all sorts of weird and wonderful angles and your eyes are darting everywhere. Craig's very good at that stuff. He's just got this innate ability to be able to read the play, and I mean somehow he bobbed out of all that kerfuffle that you described, Mark, and he's back in the lead.
Absolutely, and he's always been very, very good at it. And now Whincup puts huge pressure on Van Gisbergen. He's almost down the inside, he gets it. Great pass. Still not done. Very good bit of driving, and Van Gisbergen gets wide. We'll just see whether he can hang over the top of the hill. It's slippery offline, he does it. Very good driving from both guys. Great pass. That's still not done.
That started all the way back at turn 4, which is where they're heading now.
Yeah, and Shane had the right front tyre pretty heavily locked at turn 1, then he's way across to the left, up against the rivets on the guardrail on the run down to the hairpin. The drivers know that if you drop spots here, you could spend 20, 30, 40 minutes trying to...
Stay calm in there, we've got a long way to go.
Trying to recover.
So that was instruction then from Mark Dutton as the trim switch on the steering wheel, which will be for a mixture setting to get maximum engine power at this time of the race.
And Will Davison's reporting a vibration in his car as well. Here's the replay of the start. Check it out. It's absolutely a side-to-side drag over the hump into turn 2. Here it is, looking across at Lowndes. It was so even, and they both did a ripper job to get through here.
And then it stayed. This is the bit that got interesting. Have a look at this. There's the fence. There's the fence. How close was that?
Will couldn't get it out of gear. He was that busy trying to catch a slide. And look, here's Lowndes down the inside. Remember, they're on stone-cold tyres at this point.
That was the move, that bit there. As soon as he ran him wide, he was done.
But Will was struggling to get it out of third into fourth into the right-hander at turn 3, and he would have been sliding, which is what the inboard didn't, the onboard, I should say, didn't show us that it was wild.
Last time around, Davison was quicker than Lowndes, in fact, quicker than the whole field. This time around, he's on track to post another fastest lap time, and he does so. Although Whincup's just bettered it. Tyres squealing. So
winners and losers, sorry Matt, winners and losers. James Courtney has picked up 3 spots to get into the top 10. He's 9th. Good job.
So Team Vodafone and FPR are pairing up. Lowndes leading Davison, then Winterbottom leading Whincup.
And a good exit from Whincup there. He got off the hairpin pretty well. We'll just see whether he gets himself into position here. He's got the toe. The engine temperature won't be affected yet, and dives down the inside. Very good braking. Can he make it? Well done. Now the crisscross. Can Winterbottom get back? No, he can't. A little bit of contact, but a very big and bold move there by Whincup into turn 6. That was very aggressive.
I don't think that Frosty would have thought that that was possible, because he just did it quite, well, easily is the wrong word to use, but he did get, it was a good lunge, and he did it without a big brake lock, and he managed to control the speed and get through the corner. That was nicely done.
Your point's spot on too, Crompo. If you can get it done now, you save yourself 20, 30 minutes of hassle. So it's worth the big dive. Aggression was the key to that one. The car hasn't been exactly where he wants it, so he has to muscle it.
That's a good pass. It's come from a long way back, and he's had to feed it a gear really late to make it into the corner, but this was the little bit of contact, but a very well-controlled braking modulation right at the end of the straight to be able to get the car in there. Great job.
So the reason I made that remark about Frosty there a moment ago, he was absolutely on the race line. He didn't bother to even put a quarter or a third of the car across to defend, which makes me think that he never thought that move would be on. It's wild, isn't it?
Isn't it? Mark Winterbottom's recording bad understeer, so he's lacking front grip. You can see him falling away from this lead group. Davison's putting pressure on Lowndes. Whincup's making ground on Davison, and Winterbottom's just dropping off this lead group.
Well, that's the explanation then. I didn't catch the radio message, so if he's complaining about car balance, what he's decided to do is not get in a battle that he can't maintain himself within. Better to stay in his own rhythm, look after the tyres, and then trim the car in the stop, make a rear roll centre adjustment. They're going to go onto the soft tyre and then live to fight another day. Sometimes if you try and fight with a car that's marginally slower, the net result of that is you end up in the paddock because the bloke serves you.
That's very true. So he's got to live through to that first phase of stops, which Mark Larkham explained before with our track facts. He's got to live through this first phase and then tune the car for the soft tyre in the next segments of the race. Meanwhile, Russell Ingall on the soft tyre has got to 15th position. He's made 8 spots. Great job.
You know, it's about these times where you go, I'd love to be a fly on the wall down at, say, Ford Performance Racing. They've got 3 guys well and truly in this top 10 battle, and Will Davison sandwiched by Team Vodafone. So let's be a fly on the wall. Tim Edwards, how's the heart rate?
It's always jumping a bit at the moment, but no, we're under control. I mean, we're just planning for our first stop at the moment.
Tim, I just heard Mark Winterbottom with a little radio message. One of your cars off the road down there at turn 6. That's Dave Reynolds. It's fired off the road at the end of the main straight. A little report of understeer for Winterbottom, is that right?
Yeah, no, but we expected it, to be honest, on the hard tyres, so we're confident once he puts the soft on, we'll be okay. So, and that'll probably be in about 5 or 6 laps.
Mate, we'll let you go because Davey Reynolds has entered the lane and there's more drama on the track. So that would be Jamie Whincup at turn 4, smoking it up. He's done a big 360 down there and dropped a couple of positions.
All good, mate, all good. On forward.
So what's happened there? He's amazing that he's been able to rotate that and pop out the other side, and not, you know, for it to not have caused such a big drama. Look at all the damage here on David Reynolds' car. Putting the incompressible jack stands underneath that car. So they're going to have to do a bit of work on that to resurrect it. Here it is again in replay. This will give us the explanation. Oh, he's had to lock it all up to not end up turning Will around.
He gave him a bump.
Nice job. Look at that. He had it in first gear. He just rotated like a go-kart.
Beautiful driving. Beautiful driving. Have a look at this. Now he's in first slot, gas it up, pick the clutch up, turn it straight around at its own length and drive away. That is as good. That's Safeway car park stuff. That is very, very good.
Don't attempt this in car parks.
If you drive like that in the car park, I'm never going shopping.
That's pretty wild.
That is very good. Great car control. Great situational awareness. Look at this. Look at this. And Frosty's going to drive. What you always do when they're spinning like that, you follow the tail of the car. You did a great job.
You can hear it on the ref limiter out of the other car. You can hear it out of Frosty's car banging away in first gear.
Hey, a lot of damage on that one, but Matt, that's got really bad front damage on Dave Reynolds' car as he's in the pit area there now.
Yeah, and Tim will be able to give us an update on that. So Lowndes leads the way here after an enthralling opening segment of this event.
Good recovery, mate.
We'll
Good
take a break,
recovery.
bring you back as soon as we can
Push
at
on,
Simmons
brother.
Plains.
Fast lane is clear, fast lane is clear. Wheels done, go, 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 go. Track is clear on exit. Use the tyres for the next few laps. Use all the tyres for the next few laps. Mate, Will's in this lap. You did a good lap. Keep going around. Good line. Good straight running, mate. Orange light on, please. Orange light on. Nice and square in the box. Stop on the marks.
Welcome back. So Will Davison is the first to come in on lap 13. So he was about 8/10 of a second behind Craig Lowndes.
So this is what Mark Larkham talked about, getting off the hard tyre early, getting on the soft tyre. That's what happened to David Reynolds off at turn 6 with somebody else involved in that.
Must have been Tander. Yeah, exactly. And now Garth's down in 13th. So that's explained exactly what's happened to car number 2 and 55.
And Reynolds remains in the pit, is the key there. His car number 888, Craig Lowndes, race leader, is in the pits. Incidentally, his teammate, Matt Spin.
Need to put on the brake and the clutch with fleet, mate. Put on the brake and the clutch. It's going to be a rather short one, this one. Got a nice lead in, let's take advantage. Just a reminder about the concrete. Wheels are done. The wheels are done. And go, go, go. Spin the wheels. Just get it down from the pass. Good to go, good to go, good to go.
There you go. Lowndes gets it done. Let's see where Will is. This is the critical part of the story. It's close, but Davison prevails. Nice job. Nice job. So that's a positional change. What I was going to say about Jamie Winker, if you wonder it, he lost 5 seconds in the spin. His lap time on that lap with the spin, and it was a 57.95. And they're lapping at the moment in mid-52s. So not bad if you come back and say, oh, did a little spin up at turn 4, just add a couple of track metres. Degree of difficulty, a bit more, plus 5 seconds. What's the big deal?
And it was fun.
And now as Jamie Wincup comes down the pit lane for his stop, isn't it interesting though, we saw this play out yesterday with Will Davison and Craig Lowndes there, by having good fuel economy, or better fuel economy. Will Davo came in, he got those 2 laps under his belt before Craig went out. So that's 2 laps, remember, on a fresh soft tyre, whilst Craig was running around on a hard tyre. Good stuff. Fuel economy equals pace.
It gives you flexibility. That's the real part of that story. It gives you the flexibility to do stuff. And that's what we saw yesterday, that extra lap on the soft tyre. A couple of litres of fuel is all we're talking. Makes a big difference when it comes to the strategy play. And this, of course, becomes a big deal when you get to Bathurst.
Is that technical? Flexibility to do stuff. Well, yeah. Is that technical?
So you guys work that out. I'll tell the folks at home what's happening. Shane Van Gisbergen comes in. That means that, and so does James Courtney, who, by the way, has had a great start to this race. He's made up a bunch of spots, but Russell Ingall now leads the race. He's the Lone Ranger out there, started on the soft tyre before.
It's water coming out of Lowndes' car. That's topped it up with water for the water brakes, and it's venting a lot here. That'll come under the notice of race control, and there's been a bit of discussion about this stuff over the years. We'll see how they react.
Before these pit stops started taking place, Russell's effective gain was 14 spots. He'd gone from 24th up to 10th. So just picking his way through the field on the soft tyre against guys who started, the rest of the field started on the hard compound.
Yeah, he'll blaze on in that position for a while now, Russell. It's a lot of water.
Needs a plug. Watch this.
And the team will argue that it'll ultimately get used, and therefore it won't be an issue. And their opponents.
Got some reports out of the visual now. Car 888 looks like it's not a fuel leak, but perhaps a water bottle leak or water reaching right rear window. Over.
It's the voice of the race director, Tim Schenken. So it's still venting heavily, and the team will argue that the water level will go down, and the opponents will argue that it's making a mess of the track.
Righto, so Ingall leads the race and will stay out there for quite a while on those soft tyres.
He's got a 21.5 second margin at the moment. To come back and grab his fuel, get his tyres on, that's going to be 40 plus seconds. So it's a false economy for him at the moment. But what they're trying to do is recover from his qualifying position and see whether they can use an alternate strategy to be able to sneak up the field.
Remember, Will Davison came out ahead of Craig Lowndes, so effectively Davison's your race leader. Positional change after that stop. And Davey Reynolds back out there, but wide at turn 4.
Steering arm was what they dealt with on that car as a result of what we think was some contact with Garth Tander. I think he's just steered clear of everybody because he's laps down, he's miles out of it.
That's what he did exactly. Moved out of the way. Good responsible stuff, actually. The other interesting one there in the pit stop race is that Wincup was able to jump in front of Van Gisbergen. He was 5th before the stops. He's effectively 4th in the race now.
So just to further explain the business about the flexibility, if you've got really good fuel economy, what it does is it allows you to do what they've done yesterday, which is get on those soft tyres. You're a goose. Get on those soft tyres a lap early, and effectively there's about a half second, a little bit more in some cases, gain out of the soft tyre. Here we are back underneath the Bottle car here for David. So whatever the problem is, it hasn't been resolved, Larko.
Yeah, Neil, I'm actually standing in the Bottle garage. Well, there's the steering arm they pulled off the car. You can see they actually make that out of quite a mild steel material, so it can bend. You see they've got a little reliefs in there to make it bend. By comparison, there's a new one, and obviously that connects the upright, which is connected to your wheel, to your steering rack, and that would be the most popular injury in V8 supercars today. Very intentionally made to bend rather than break, which is quite intelligent.
Fastest lap of the race just set by Mark Winterbottom. Thanks, Mark Larkham. Frosty's currently in position 4. It's Ingle by 19 seconds. They're actually gaining on him pretty substantially at the moment. So it's the comparison of a worn soft tyre in the case of Russell Ingle, Super Cheap Auto Racing, and a fresher soft tyre for Will Davison.
Really good job by Rick Kelly also. He has effectively moved up from 15th to 6th. He's currently 7th, but obviously Ingle hasn't stopped. So he's gained plenty of positions there, 9 positions in the course of that first phase of the race.
Because they stopped him early, Mark. They brought him in on lap 11, so he was out of phase with many of the others. So he got on the soft tyre much earlier than those around him.
Looks as though that water issue has, like you said, settled down for car 888. So Tim Shank, the race director, probably no need to have a look at that any further. Question is, for Russell Ingle, how long will those soft tyres last for him?
Pull 3.5 tenths out of wheel there, mate. Looking for about another 20 laps on these tyres, so these make them last. Okay, thanks.
Welcome back on lap 23 here, out of 84 today in the 4th race of the championship. Craig Lowndes started this one on pole position, but Will Davison has got the jump on him in the first round of pit stops. But we're looking at Russell Ingle, who is your on-the-road race leader, yet to pit, started on soft tyres. For the first phase of the race, he wasn't the enforcer, he was like a supercar sniper. He's just picking them off one by one with ease. Why don't we go for a ride and check out the work the former V8 Supercar champion around this 2.4 kilometre circuit.
I'm just down in the Supercheap Auto bunker with Eric Pender, and we're watching very closely the potential degradation of Russell Ingall's tyres at the moment, going very well. They plan to keep him on those soft tyres for at least 30 laps, so they're hoping they've got still a few more good laps left in them, but they're just surprised that no one else took the gamble, that no one else went onto the softs from the start and did what Russell is doing. Obviously, it's paid some dividends for them already.
Well, it has, but the time is starting to get just chipped away and chipped away. It was about 23, 24 seconds, and now it's down to 15.
And he's losing time at the rate of about 0.6 of a second per lap relative to Will Davison. Here's Will. He's under big pressure at the moment from Craig Lowndes. He's got the eyes on Mark Winterbottom's very quick. In the last couple of laps, he's been 0.3. And that's Jeremy Moore reassuring Craig Lowndes of the situation, and just telling him, I should say, that Russell Ingall's on a completely different strategy, and when he takes the 40-odd seconds of the tour through the lane, stationary to grab the fuel, stick the tyres on and rejoin again, that's going to drop him back out in around about 15, 16 thereabouts. So although he's leading at the moment, the Supercheap Auto car, it's not a real position.
It's a net gain from the start of about 8 or 9 spots, depending on how long they can keep him out there and how long he can keep that gap.
I should add, though, that a little bit of a rub up there from Lowndes into the braking area. I should add that should the safety car intervene along the way in just the right time, that would give Russell a very big free kick.
It's great to watch that onboard camera too. Graphic illustration of how brutal this little circuit is.
How busy.
Shortest circuit we've got just bashes you around.
Oh, and you think about the stop, the 250k to 50k, so you take 200 kilometres out of your stop at turn 4, and then 275 kilometres an hour. We've seen so many cars off the road at turn 6. That was a wheel lock.
Yeah, big wheel lock. Will Davison
almost went off.
David Russell there, and now Russell clears the track area so that these leaders can go down the inside, or does he? So that just backed them all up for a moment.
Yeah, guys, you're talking about how physical this circuit is. I was having a chat to Jamie Whincup and Tim Slade just before the race, and they say even though it's deceptive because it is a short race, it's a tight track, but they reckon they work as hard on this race, on this circuit, as they do anywhere in Australia, as you guys would know. It's full on, it's just so intense, and the braking pressure coming down towards the hairpin is something like pushing 60 kilos one leg on a leg press machine. It's incredible.
Yeah, and then you throw into that mix, Barrett's, the fact that 3 or 4 of the drivers, well 4 at least, come here pretty much injured. Will Davison suffers from a back injury, which, as we mentioned, makes his foot go numb later in the race. Frosty's still recovering from a broken ankle. Todd Kelly's got a foot drama, and Jason Bright's got rib problems as well.
Now Lowndes is starting to show those signs of agitation. He gets closer and he niggles, he gives you little bumps, he rattles on your rear bumper, and that's what's going on here at the moment. And he's in your mirrors left, right, centre, and he's going to start being a pretty big pest here for Will. There he is, another one of those little rattles.
And why he did that, Neil, is Will is quite cheekily moving the car over in the braking area. So when Craig could normally brake down the outside if he had racing room, Will's just creeping the car across the road, and right before the turn-in, Lowndes gives him a bump.
And he knows, Davison knows, that at turn 4, Lowndes likes a higher line. Use it as a berm almost, so Will's going up there saying, I'll just get in front of you.
That's right. The technique at the hairpin is actually quite diverse between probably Todd Kelly, the most traditional line, and Will Davison and Mark Winterbottom, the most wide and looping line.
Davison was struggling through turn 2 there. That was a slow exit. He's going to be vulnerable down here in the brake area. He's all over him. Craig, he'll get up alongside him this time. Will had the big understeer through 2, and again he creeps over. And that's going to end in tears. It's going to end in tears. Look at that.
Was caused by Will Davison moving over. You can't do that in the braking area. Once you've got track position, you can't move the car.
That's completely crunched.
And then wheels, hang on, mate. We're not going anywhere. And flag safety car ports and flag safety car on easy to scramble. Safety car scramble.
So safety car in. And completely crunched Craig Lowndes front left and his hopes for this race.
Get out when you can.
That was his question to Jeremy Moore. How do I get out of here? Or when can I get out of here? And he will just be shattered. And you guys predicted it.
Well, that's where it is.
And ultimately you've got to leave space for the other bloke. There has to be room for him to have his car. You can't make it vanish. And that was coming from turn. I saw the understeer in turn 2. Will had the slower exit. I knew that would give an extra K or 2 to Craig. Here it is from the front. And watch the gap narrow, 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 narrow. Bam. And he's ridden up over the wheel. It's broken the front left suspension on the Team Vodafone car. And this will be a lengthy delay.
Yeah, a bit of a drama down here in pit lane. I don't know if you've seen the smoke down here. There wasn't any fire. That's all the fire extinguishers just getting onto the field. Russell Lingle came in, as you predicted. Neil, straight in, put him on soft tyres. He's out there on fresh tyres behind the safety car, which is good for him. However, I guess in the excitement of all of that, he's charged off while the field man was still coupled into the car, filling the car. So bad management.
There's not many times you'll see Craig Lowndes without a smile on his face, even when he's upset. But that is genuine, total, utter, gutted disappointment. And that's the reason why.
So well, just there's a man we're talking about. This is the team picture of 888. It's Roland Dane. A man with a grim look on his face as everybody might. Maybe we can come to his slow remaining operator. Ironically though, we were just saying a while ago for the journey to get back to the market, it is a safety car. When I found out on the back of the straight, I knew how to got that. But when you get there, we're not seeing anyway.
Increase speed to 80 kilometres on the straight.
Yeah, I don't know, mate. The safety car comes straight out. I think everything feels okay. But it's just massively struggling at that stage. There's just no front or rear grip, mate. We've lost all tyres.
Okay, mate. Frosting's pretty pacey, so if you can't hold him off, don't fight too hard. But we're still good for a P2 here if we play our cards right. We'll give it a tune up at the stop. Pressures feel okay, or do you think that's the cause?
I can't think of anything else that's causing it, mate. I'm not really sure, but obviously a lot worse than yesterday.
We've got to about the 30-lap stage of this race and a dramatic change. Contact between Will Davison and Craig Lowndes at turn 4. The pole sitter Lowndes is out of this race. And they're distraught down at Team Vodafone. Let's check in with Mark Beretta.
Yeah, Matt, exactly right. I mean, you come in here and the long faces tell the story. Jeremy Moore, Adrian Burgess, the engineers for the car, and back here, Roland Dane, team principal, just watching on. And Roland, we know it's a tough sport. This is a hard game, but that's very hard on Craig.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what happened there. It could have been a bit of 50-50. I'm not sure, to be honest. Got to look at it from an in-car perspective as well and see. But yeah, he was running really well, so very disappointing.
All the best, mate.
Thank you.
And why don't we go across to the other side of this equation, the FPR garage. Access all areas past Tim Edwards. I can understand it's probably a busy time for you right now. Roland just said, Tim, I'm not sure if you heard that at the moment, 50-50 proposition. What's your read on it?
Yeah, I mean, our view is exactly the same. We've all seen the same footage, so I'm sure it'll be looked at after the race. But I think it's just one of those things, you know. We never like to, you know, we're having a good race with Craig then, and we're looking forward to battling for another 50 or so laps. So we want to win the race today, but we don't want to win by that.
Will's a clean, fair racer, you'd have to say. Have you counselled him much? Have you had much to say to him?
No, not at all. I mean, I'm sure from his point of view, he's done nothing wrong. You know, he's obviously he doesn't want to win the race like that either. So I'm sure it'll be looked at after the race, but sort of from our point of view, I don't think Will actually did anything wrong.
OK, Tim, thank you. Restart time, and Davison and Winterbottom lead the way. Amazing how quickly it changes. So FPR 1 and 2, and Jamie Whincup in 3rd position. And your prediction about Russell Ingall and the safety car giving him a big free kick is certainly going to play out. He's rejoined in 15th, but he has fresh, soft tyres.
And that was about where we predicted he would drop based on what we know the transit time and the pit stop to take. However, there'll be a question mark because I obviously don't know at this stage, and we'll try and check it out for you as they all try and bunch up into this hairpin, whether he was able to get a full fuel delivery. There he is. He's got brand new soft tyres. Did he get all the fuel with a problem with that rig? And is there the potential for a penalty? Because if he pulled that rig over, the thing's on the ground, the rule states that you've got to refuel with the car on the jacks off the ground. So that's something that has to be looked at afterwards as well. Yeah,
and I reckon that's the most important one, Neil, because Frank Adamson, who was down here on the pit lane, is aware that car did take off with the fuel attached to it.
Yeah, so it may not have its full fuel delivery, which could be an issue, and certainly that'll be something that they'll have to look at, because premature departure down there could cost him strategically, but it did work quite well for him.
And he comes straight out and finds himself in a battle with Alex Premer, who gets one slot off him, as Mark Winterbottom comes up right now on the rear of Will Davison. Yesterday, when they were doing that towards the end of the race, Frosty was giving him a few taps along the way. So David Russell in car 51, the Pepsi Max crew, steps out of the way. He's down in 26th in the order, so that allows Jamie Whincup now to fight clear. There goes Shane Van Gisbergen, and Tim Slade is in 5th position. Lee Holdsworth, Rick Kelly, Michael Caruso, who continues to move up through the field after starting 22nd, is in 8th. 9th is James Courtney, and 10th is Tony D'Alberto.
In this battle with Winterbottom and Davison, we saw a great battle yesterday, and Neil and I commented overnight that it looked like Winterbottom had actually slightly better pace than Will Davison yesterday, but wasn't able to get by. With almost 50 laps to go in this race, there's going to be a lot of pressure on between the teammates.
And he's going to make space, Davison. I think he's up very high here, or is he? Or is he just overrunning into there? Also, the rear bumper, the lower apron on that rear bumper of Will's car is just flapping there a bit at the moment. There must have been some contact earlier.
Hey, we picked the right garage to get an access all areas pass, didn't we?
Yeah,
it's all going on at Ford Performance Racing. Brett?
Matty can confirm that Russell Ingall did get the full load of fuel into his car, and stewards are looking at that event of him taking off with the fuel line still attached. They're going to review that. We'll hear more later.
That's probably one that'll get dealt with after the race. Again, a good exit here for Mark Winterbottom. He's strong through turns 2 and 3. That gives him a good slingshot here. Will's car's not quite as good through that area for some reason. And that'll be possibly what the issue was when he was having the battle with Lowndes.
Coming into this event, Mark Winterbottom had made some statements that it was no more Mr. Nice Guy for him. It's time to be aggressive and to make those moves. And isn't it weird now, if he needs to be aggressive, he's going to have to do so against his teammate. Probably not how he thought it would play out. Whincup's waiting to pounce, though. He's 1.6 seconds behind Winterbottom. We're riding with Michael Caruso, as I mentioned, right up through the field. 22nd to 7th.
And Mark Winterbottom's complaining to Campbell Little, his engineer, about being held up by Will. So yesterday's race will have a lingering effect on Will. And as I said, with almost 50 laps to go, this is pretty lively in under the bridge between Russell Ingall, Jason Bright and James Moffat. The driver of the race so far is definitely Michael Caruso. He's up into 7th position. He's driven the car really well.
Russell's actually struggling on this tyre set, and he just doesn't have a balance. Here we go. Change for the lead. Mark Winterbottom's now the lead at turn 6. Got it done. So he had a bit of pace. He's been able to now apply it.
Right about Ingall, we're going to have to get to the bottom of this because they're going past him at a rate of knots. He's down to 21st now, so he's dropped 6 spots since the restart of this race.
Okay, mate, so you better stay with him, let him tow us around.
So Winterbottom gets the lead for the first time in the race.
I think Ingall's actually on the hard tyre, is he?
He is, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So He's trying to minimise the damage in this little phase of the race now before he can get back onto soft for the last part. Now look at Whincup. He looks really pacey behind Davison now. And Shane Van Gisbergen was also going with them. That's the SP Toolcars just behind there, 3 or 4 car lengths behind Whincup. You can see that gap of about 0.3 of a second leading into what was the last lap where he was overtaken by Mark Winterbottom. That's the 0.8 of a second gap. And he does look racy.
Remember, 60 k's longer today, 200-kilometre race. Another fuel stop to come. We think the critical number, depending on the team you focus on, will be around about lap 50 to fuel up and get home. Another set of tyres then. This is Garth Tander, also Jonathan Webb. Jonathan Webb, little love bite on the back of Todd Kelly's car. And Tander makes a move there.
It won't be long before Whincup tries to make a move on Davison, maybe here.
Just got to get off there and stay alongside. The whole art of that is making the exit stink, meaning that when you come out of the corner, that you're alongside the car in front on the left. Even if you've only got a little bit of overlap, even if it's only your right-hand front wheel with their left-hand rear wheel, you'll maintain track position under that scenario. But as soon as he got gapped, then you can't make the pass stick at turn 6.
Will's having to slow his car up too much in the first crucial part of the corner, and that's where they're all getting at him at the moment. So just in that phase where he clears the brake pedal and the car gets to that maximum load on the nose in the corner, it must be understeering a little bit too much for him. There's something not right with the balance, because he's just a bit vulnerable, and it's happening in so many spots now that I reckon Jamie's going to grab him as well. It's interesting, isn't it? I know there's been a safety car, but stop and think about the fact that not that long ago we were having a bit of a giggle, not that it was funny if you're Jamie Whincup, about having to take evasive action, rotate his car, drop 5 seconds again. So that's Will Davison, it's tyres. So maybe they've pressured up a bit differently, or they're just going away for it. So he's struggled. He's got to make him work, though, because he's got a long way to go.
Yeah, that's right. This is a long phase. This is a maximum fuel load phase. Another 34 laps of this, where he's got to get himself through to that critical number of basically a bit after lap 50 or about lap 50.
So give or take, he's got another 10 laps of pain on these. So all that they can do at the garage at the moment is help him with front and rear anti-roll bars and the trimming of those. This could be a move here for Jamie, or it should be. Locked rears. And now he's done it. He's been able to get out of there alongside. He's got to stay there now. And what Will try and do is just, he'll try and make it the widest possible arc for Jamie on the outside. Look at that. Unbelievable. Side by side. Jamie's got a great position under brakes. He should be able to prevail. Watch Shane Van Gisbergen here as well. Will, in the end, decided it was better to close off Shane and surrender to Jamie than go on with it.
That's very true. He did a really good job of merging into the traffic. He basically got out of that, turned back inside, and made sure that Van Gisbergen couldn't hold him wide. Easy there to be out of the queue and be jumped wide, but Van Gisbergen, he'll be a big player now, because the brake performance of the Stone Brothers Racing Falcon is always good, and he's very, very good on the brakes under normal circumstances. So he's got to get a run. They've got good engine speed also. This is the pass. Have a look at the rear brakes. It's sideways there for Whincup. It was a really good bit of driving, and then have a look. A little bump, little mirror rub as the two cars get up to 275 kilometres an hour right alongside each other. Fantastic driving from both guys. Will had to leave him enough road, and there's Whincup. Now this is the bit that was important. He just slots back in, and so he doesn't get caught with Van Gisbergen.
Garth Tander is saying that he's cut a tyre, and we're likely to see him in, obviously, if that's the case. Yes, there he is, off the road. Front right corner for Garth Tander. So I wonder how and why.
Oh, it's hard to make them turn. Clearly they don't like turning left with the right front tyre like that. It's actually got a lot of damage on the corner itself. As Neil said, you might have to put a whole new front spoiler on this.
And he won't get home on the fuel from here unless there's another safety car.
Yeah, 50's the critical mark. Lap 50.
Yeah, so that's the bit, maybe that was already folded in, so hard to tell. Okay, well this will explain it. This is down the inside of Rick Kelly. We turn in, they bump alongside each other. A little bumping duel, and that's then hurt the right-hand front. You can see it's immediately punctured the tyre. So that's Garth just having a dive. The two cars make contact now and again and again. And that little bit of Dodgem car action ends up with damage to the right-hand front of the Tyle Holden Racing Team Commodore.
302nd Jack Daniels outing for Rick Kelly in car number 15, and 35 years in 1 day for Garth Tander. So none of those stats working for either of those blokes at the moment.
Neil, not very often you find Craig Lowndes in the truck during a race. Lowndesy, very disappointing.
Well, it is, Barrett. I think the car was working exceptionally well today. It's, you know, really for us, you know, it was a good start. We had, you know, really good morning practice. Qualifying went exceptionally well. Actually got a bad start, not a bad start, I should say, not a scabby start. So, you know, but yeah, look, it's them's the breaks through the pit stop. We lost position. We had good pace, and of course around here it's difficult to pass. I had good overlap on Will going down into the hairpin, and of course, you know, we had contact, and it's bent all the front end, left-hand front end. So yeah, we're out of the race, but we'll sit and watch it now and see what happens.
Lowndesy, how do you apportion the blame? Whose fault was it?
Oh, look, there was overlap. You know, I'm sure that you know, there'll be always two sides to every story. It's something that for me, you know, we had to give it a go because we had Frosty catching us. Will was basically holding us up at a point because, you know, we had good pace. We knew we could run the car faster than what we were doing. So look, you know, who knows? We'll sit down tonight and have a look at it and see what happens.
Sounds like no hard feelings, mate.
No, look, it's just motor racing. It's just one of those things. You give it your best shot, and of course, unfortunately, sometimes you come out second best.
On to Hamilton. Good on you, Lance.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks, Brett.
And meanwhile, Shane Van Gisbergen is having a look at Will Davison, and he will get this slot done this time. So Van Gisbergen goes up to third. Winterbottom leads from Whincup. He couldn't hold him off.
And Craig Lowndes, obviously his demeanour changed a bit. You could see the level of disappointment when he was parked up at the hairpin. And by the time he's back in the truck, he's got his traditional smiling face back on. But what he was saying was there was an overlap between the two cars leading into the hairpin. And when there's an overlap, you have to leave the other car racing room. You can't move them over in the straight. So Slade's now making ground on Davison, and he will be vulnerable at the same spot. And Craig was being a little bit politically correct in terms of the way he approached that now after 5 or 10 minutes of settling down.
And he's going to get him too. So Slade is faster than Davison, who's complaining about total lack of grip and bad brake performance at the moment. So what's happening with Will is he's going to fall to the natural position in the field for what that car's delivering speed-wise at the moment. He's got a little bit of margin over Lee Holdsworth, though, so he's going to drop into this area of about 5th, 6th, and then things will settle down until they can get to this next stop, get the next set of tyres on and trim the car up.
Looking at Jono Webb, who started position 10, is now in 11th. Behind him, Alex Premer, Fabian Coulthard, Rick Kelly, James Moffat, Stevie Owen come down to positions 18 and 19 to find Jason Bright and Taz Douglas for Team I Select.
How much more turn you need?
So this is the long, hard battle of this race to get to that critical lap time that Larko was speaking about, lap 50, so we're not too far away where you can fuel up to the end, and Taz is going to slide it in.
Good save.
Turn 4.
Very good save. That was Gary Rush Speedway material there. That was on the lock stops, all sideways, gathered it up, slowed it down, drove it off there. Lost some ground, but it was a good bit of car control. Well done. Here it is. Rear wheels locked down the inside of Bright, doesn't make contact, gathers it up, big bucket line of opposite lock, straightens it up and drives off the corner. Speed of the Jamie Whincup School of hairpinning.
This, and we've seen some great demonstrations there. Now this gap's disappearing, guys. Whincup is about 2/10 faster at the moment in the last couple of laps than Mark Winterbottom. So it's miraculous to consider that Jamie could recover from that loop that he had at turn 4 early, but he is recovering at the moment. He's going to be a big threat to that car that's just up in the foreground.
And Mark Dutton's been up there, in.
So their fuel flexibility is amazing. Expecting to come in with 48 laps recorded. They're on their 49th. So now Jamie is the new leader. So they're confident that it's going to be right on the fumes, one would think.
Well, he'll have to respond, won't he? He'll have to respond. He'll have to come in the next lap.
But confident they can fuel and get home from here.
Mark Dutton's been on the phone to Whincup saying, great pace, mate, great pace. So he's been coaxing him along before this stop. Campbell, Little, alternatively for Winterbottom's been saying, good pace, mate, couple of really good laps. So now the frenzy starts. Lap 50. Pretty much the whole field will come in. And this is the important final phase of this race. It looks slow there at the end. What's going on?
Yeah, we didn't see what the story was there, but it was like they were all standing there looking at it.
Yeah, Neil, stalled when he went to go, and then the auto start not working well there. The thing just turned and cranked and cranked and cranked. He would have lost 4 seconds, I reckon, without a drama.
So it cranked, so the auto start was doing its thing, but it wouldn't fire.
Oh, look at the frenzied look on him. Mark Winterbottom's face. Finally gets it going. So remember, he's got the injury to his left ankle. When it stalled, he had to try to get it away, and this... Oh, and we've actually parked the two cars up here, haven't we? So, yeah, big damage for Winterbottom versus Whincup. We saw that gap practically on the racetrack, more than 100 metres.
Still waiting. Go, get out in the pit lane. Watch Davison.
Oh, and Slade's going to have to let his teammate in. So Slade has to come out of the throttle slightly. So those two guys were battling just before it, and there's Whincup. You get Winterbottom in the background.
Yeah, Whincup's in. Jamie's in. Here we go.
And then we're going to come through there, mate. Going to come through there, mate. Yeah, they're on it, mate. They're tightening up for it.
That's a disaster for Winterbottom.
Neutral. No, sorry. Brake and clutch.
Straight through Gary Rogers Motorsports Bay.
Remember the saying, brake and clutch, so that he's got the clutch engaged totally, so the rear wheels don't spin. Watch this, you can start spinning them now. So he's got it in first gear with the clutch still depressed, but the clutch drags.
You're going to be good to go.
So when it drops, you watch. Very nice getaway. Almost, you've got to modulate the clutch there to make the car walk. And this is the critical part of this race. He was so close to going off the road.
That was more marginal than yesterday, and yesterday was marginal. But how's the gap? That gap's opened up enormously as a result of what happened in the pit lane to Mark Winterbottom.
Winterbottom's behind those guys. So look at that. What a result for Whincup.
Well, look at this.
It's about as close as you dare to ending up being a motocross rider there.
Whincup in front of the effective leader.
I wonder what role Frosty's ankle had in that departure.
It's Courtney in. Courtney was the effective leader before he came in.
Okay, clear from.
A little bit of a clumsy getaway there. Didn't really like walking off in first gear. I can't explain how hard they are to drive away like that sometimes.
So when this cleanses, which it will in a matter of minutes, Whincup will be the leader from Davison. Van Gisbergen will be third. Tim Slade will be fourth. And Mark Winterbottom, who took the early dive into pit lane as leader of the race, comes out fifth.
And remember, under the scenario that Neil was talking about earlier in the race, if you come in earlier and you have the fuel flexibility to do that, he should have actually gapped two extra laps on a fresh tyre. Correct. So he would have had a very, very good gap if there was no drama in the stop. The other thing that happened, this is a bit ugly here with Tander, up the back of...
And James Moffat.
So that was a pretty wild moment. Here we go. So here's Tander on the outside
of Dean Fiore, and he just couldn't pull it up, and he ends up tagging James Moffat. And technically, if you read the rules, if you make a pass as a result of bumping someone out of the way, then they'll give you a slap on the wrist. So we'll see whether that gets dealt with later.
Here we go. It's still pretty wild here because Coulthard's going to hold Steve Owen wide through turn 7. And there's Jason Bright, who ranges up on the outside. That was the incident yesterday with Tim Slade. That was the spot where he fired down through the paddock. There's water coming out of one of those cars there too. I was just about to say, sorry, Will Davison has jumped Shane Van Gisbergen in those pit stops. So we saw Giz get Will just before the stops, and now they're reversed.
And they'll have smartened up Will Davison's car for sure. So he's probably got a better car beneath him now than he had 5 minutes ago.
And Van Gisbergen was only a blink away from having to slot behind Tim Slade. There was no room in pit lane where it all goes on. So Stephen Johnson leads the race. When he heads into the pits, Jamie Whincup will have a few second advantage over Will Davison. Fascinating stage of this race. Hope you're enjoying it. Simmons Plains in Tassie.
Pace is good, mate. Let's look up to these tyres. Long way to go. Whincup is doing 52.3. Not sure if it's conserving his tyre or what. Hard to get to, mate. Do your best. 28 to go.
Mate, still my best, guys.
So here we are at Symmons Plains as Stevie Johnson continues to lead the field, but the effective race lead belongs to Jamie Whincup, and quite handily so as well. Run you through the highlights. Remember, Craig Lowndes started on pole position after a fascinating even start. Jamie Whincup, though, provided the thrills and spills down at turn 4. Still can't believe he did it so perfectly.
He's just got serious brake problems.
But Craig Lowndes, well, he was in the eyes of the officials as the water started to spray out the right-hand side of that car, but this was the defining moment for Lowndes' race. The front left absolutely crunched. Contact with Will Davison at turn 4. Team Vodafone was shattered. Lowndes, I don't think I've seen him look like that for quite some time, and Mark Winterbottom will get the race lead eventually. As, you want to buy a ticket here at Tassie, go down to turn 4 if you like to see bumps and grinds. That's where it all goes on. Shane Van Gisbergen has been in this mix from the word go. He started 4th. He's had good pace right across the weekend. He's currently in effective 2nd position. This is the moment that cost Mark Winterbottom the race lead. Whincup just gets it out.
Oh, man.
Just gets it out, but it was such a big gain. And I reckon there, Garth Tander was trying to just get out of the way of Dean Fiore. He pulls up alongside him. And in trying to make sure he didn't hit Fiore, had to swing it out, also hit the brake, but too late.
There's a change for position here. Shane Van Gisbergen has climbed up over Will Davison, who's reporting brake issues, and I don't know whether that's because he's got a problem with the brakes and they're hot, or in fact he's been talking for a while about this problem he has with the numbness in his legs, so he's eased up there, left a big gap for Shane Van Gisbergen. And the move made very effectively by the Kiwi down the inside at turn 6. And that moves Shane up into 3rd, but that'll be effectively 2nd when Stephen Johnson takes his stop. Tim Edwards, team principal, Ford Performance Racing, is on the line down in the bunker there. Tim might be able to shed some light. Neil Crompton with you. What's the story with Will? Is it a problem with his leg, Tim, or has he got a brake drama?
Oh, look, I mean, you know as much as we do. You know, he's not going to tell us if there's a problem with his leg anyway, so all we've got to do is just, we can guide him with the temperatures of the brakes, and he changes the amount of water that we put on the brakes. That's why you hear we talk about Blue 2 or Blue 3. That's just controlling the amount of water that we use. So that makes a difference to the temperature. So while we can, we're using a bit of extra water to try and cool the brakes. And look, we'll see how we go.
It's like going back to your old single-seater days, Tim. You might have to pour about another 100 seats for Will, because he's been having a real problem with this.
Yeah, he has, and it's funny because he had a problem here on the Saturday in November, and then the 200k race on Sunday, you know, only 4 months ago, no problem at all. So we're hoping that it's not his leg at all. We're just hoping that it's, you know, the brakes are getting quite warm and we can cool them down for him.
Tim, it was a very, very costly exit for the pits from Mark Winterbottom. Was that just a driver error, or what happened with it?
Oh, look, we don't know. It stalled. You know, we do the drop and go, and it just stalled as he went to go. So we'll have to have a look at the data after the race. But yeah, absolutely gutted about that, because you know you can't afford to give away 5 seconds in a pit stop like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Good luck, mate. We'll be back with you shortly.
It's a tough deal there for Tim. Because remember, last year they were very, very quick here with their cars, and they came away by their standards a bit empty-handed because of the way the day worked out. Now, it's not done yet, but could be the same today with Jamie Whincup, after a spin at the hairpin, being able to get over the top of them. Also, drive-through penalty car 66, Russell Ingles Super Cheap Auto. That'll be as a result of the unsafe release of the car yanking the fuel filler over on his stop earlier that we commented on.
Just on that issue of Will Davison and the foot numbness, we spoke to him about it yesterday after the race. Of course, he was in great spirits, didn't feel a thing because he won. But it's interesting, and Tim made the point, he was waiting for it to come to him at Adelaide, and thankfully it didn't. About lap 35 yesterday, he started to get tingly sensations in the foot. It's a hell of a way to try and drive around here. Whincup, our race leader, back after this.
Red 4.
Hope you're enjoying this Supercar Sunday afternoon on 7 and 7, mate. 20 laps to go. We can take you ad-free all the way to the checkered flag. And here on in.
It's interesting to look here at Mark Winterbottom's footwork, because his left foot has been the focus, and that awful injury water skiing just before New Year's Eve. And he can't put his foot back over on what we call the dead pedal, which is the footrest to the left of the clutch pedal, so he just has to sit it over the clutch pedal. Engineers don't like it when you just hover on the clutch pedal like that. It tends to make them hot.
You can see the little tap. He'll do it again down here. So look at the throttle modulation. Very, very smooth. Nice throttle modulation, not too much wheel spin. And then look for the little tap. The left foot will come across and just bring the brake pads out to the rotor. Just have a look. Mate, it doesn't need to... See how long the pedal was there? It would be better off through that right-hander to do it. If you watch down at the hairpin, because you go through a left and a right with the steering lock, then you'll see that the tap of the brake pedal is more important. So this is now turn 1 into turn 2. Brake, get it turned on the throttle nice and gently. Second, third, fourth, out to the fence, and then down to the hairpin to have the brake pedal up. So that's that little tap of the brake, and then hard on the brake. This is the hardest stop. As I said earlier in the telecast, 200 kilometres an hour wiped off in about 150 metres into the slowest corner on our tour. and now down the straight back to 275 Ks. It's a very compact, very hard lap, and one that's very intense because you only need to make a little mistake at turn 4 or turn 6 and you're off the road. I bet he tapped the brake on the next one into turn 6.
Yeah, that's right. After it disappeared.
See how long it was.
Went to the firewall.
I don't like that. That's not nice.
Interesting to look at the speed of the key runners in the top 6 positions. They've all been doing about a 52.1 or a 52.2 lap time. Just on that very last lap, Jamie Whincup's punched out a 51.9. He's the only guy in the field in the one. So all of a sudden he's looking just that tiny bit stronger than those around him. 3.9 seconds is the margin that he enjoys now, and he's getting some sort of a warning on his dash because Mark Dutton's counselling him to ignore the warning, so he'll be hitting the reset on the steering wheel and cancelling the alarm.
Hey boys, I just want to cover off on a couple of issues up at the hairpin. Scaife and I were talking about them earlier on, but first of all, the Will Davison Craig Lowndes incident. It's going to be interesting to see if there will be any action over that. Thomas Medeiros, the driving standards observer for the category, was actually saying in the driver's briefing, being very firm, as we run our cars down into the hairpin here, your obvious line, because you come out of turn 3 over on this side of the road, so your line sort of means that you cross up here, turn around and head off. So you can see what happens here. You move up here. Now, this was what Will Davison was doing. But Thomas was very specific in saying, remember that there's always going to be cars doing exactly what Craig was doing, positioning themselves along there. Now, what they generally will let you do is you can squeeze a car. That's fine to squeeze him to the point that you don't push him off the road. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do there. Now, the other thing I just want to show you here, that was pretty well what we call a conventional line. You heard the boys talking about racing lines down there, and that's sort of what we call a late apex there, so your turning points around about there. But you'll see those FPR cars in particular are coming down here and taking a high line right around here. Now, the reason you can do it here and not at many other corners is because it's sort of banked. And why it's a real benefit, because here you've got to be going really slow on your conventional line, but on this one you can carry more speed. So you might be doing 5 or 8 kilometres an hour faster there versus there. That means way back here your brake marker can maybe be 5 or 10 metres deeper because you carry yourself into the corner, which is a nice little advantage when you're in racing mode.
Well explained, Larko, because that 5 kilometres an hour, it's only a 50k corner, so it's 10% faster or slower by being able to get around the middle of the corner. And the other aspect of that, well explained, this is Prema and Coulthard having a little altercation at turn 7. It looks like Stevie Owen will blaze by both of them. He gets, we'll see, another little bump, and Steve Owen around the outside, makes sure he can get it stopped, and does so. Oh, so he's pushed him wide, and then another contact, and now Coulthard goes by. That's lively stuff. They're racing at the World Championship Grand Prix there for 11th spot. And it's on for young and old. They play for keeps down there, the boys, don't they?
Stevie Johnson on the inside of David Wall at turn 7. So Junior has rejoined in position 23, now at 22. It's extraordinary. Steve Owen gets around both Prema and Coulthard.
Now, what's interesting there is that that's the race leader in behind, and Mark Dutton's saying to Jamie Whincup, be careful with the lap traffic, be very careful with it. Rear bumper and the under tray on David Russell's car here, looking a bit second-hand at the back of the Commodore. There's that little diffuser under there with the Volvo sign on it. It's just flapping. He's taken a whack in the back there. And it's actually had some tape on it before and it's come loose again. So whether it's come loose or it's been assisted along the way.
Well, that was almost...
Guys in the industry sort of call that, that's under the rear fuel cell. The guys call it the nappy, and it's the... As Neil said, shaped like a diffuser section. It looked like it got an aero effect that had so much oversteer over the hill then.
It's actually got quite a decent whack in it because the whole boot lid is twisted, which means the rear wing's not sitting correctly either. So we'll watch all that. Now, Whincup, meantime, is being told again and again and again by Mark Dutton, careful of these blokes.
Number 1 mission for David Russell this weekend was to bring the car home straight.
Frank, car 51, it's got some loose body work at the rear. Just need you to check that 51. It's coming through turn 4 now. Sorry.
Yeah, bring the car home straight and hand it back over to Murph, hopefully, at Hamilton, who's recovering from back surgery. So 3 more weeks we'll be on the streets of Hamilton in New Zealand.
Winterbottom looks a tiny bit stronger at the moment than Tim Slade. his focus is going to be whether or not he can sneak underneath the lucky 7 Stone Brothers Racing driver, Slade. He's been very strong here so far in this race. It's been a good showing. Both those cars from SBR and both the cars from FBR, Ford Performance Racing and Stone Brothers Racing, have been really good. Slade, you've got some numbers there, Mark.
Yeah, so Tim Slade, a really good drive. 5 positions up for him. Michael Caruso, drive of the race, up to 7th position from 22nd, so 15 spots up the grid. Todd Kelly, 9. Steve Owen, 8. And Jason Bright, 11th position. So good drive from all those guys. When you can forge your way forward around this tight, twisty and difficult racetrack is a very commendable effort.
Last couple of laps, Shane Van Gisbergen has just been taking hundredths here and hundredths there. Not a big chunk out of Jamie Whincup. We know that Whincup had to get around the lap traffic, so the gap now is 3.4 seconds.
Work, mate, Joe. Whincup right there in front. Good work.
There's the gap between first Jamie Whincup, second Shane Van Gisbergen. So he's well and truly within striking distance. All it will take is a little mistake from Whincup. A lot to play out. 10 full laps to go.
3.4.
And Van Gisbergen's got to be careful because he's got a 2.5 second margin over Will Davison. You've got to make your mind up whether you've got enough car pace to make the 3.5 seconds up to Whincup, and I honestly don't think he can.
Nice work, mate.
So what you've got to do is drive the car very well. You've got to drive it without making a mistake, but don't lose the next spot. So for maturity, for a young guy like Shane Van Gisbergen, these sorts of days make big differences for your career in terms of assessing the situation and driving the car as hard as you can without making that mistake.
It's Jason Bright we were looking at there a moment ago. Team BOC, new livery for that car this year. Back to the Future. They had that look several years ago for Jason Richards. He's not having a great weekend by his standard, but he's recovered reasonably well today. 14th. He's still got problems with his rib. He had to step down here in November last year. This was the racetrack that he made his debut in V8 Supercar competition way back when, 1997. And where is he at the moment? So he's 14th, as I said, and he's 33 seconds down on the race leader. Still pretty tight for this next little bunch, second, third, fourth, and fifth. Not really resolved, but at the moment that cushion that Whincup's got looks pretty solid.
Remember, Jamie came into this weekend with 7 race wins at this circuit, equal with Garth Tander and Peter Brock. So if he can hold out from here, he'll become the all-time winningest driver at this circuit. Take a look at Tony D'Alberto. Just at the back end of the top 15. Craig Lowndes out of this race, contact with Will Davison. Turn 4.
You watch him drive it like that now, Matt. He's got beautiful rhythm with the car, and he just, the rate in which he turns the wheel, you said yesterday, just looked like he was struggling a bit and forcing the car. The car's definitely better today versus yesterday. And that nice flow, that you just have a look how slow the gear change method is, and the way that he just drives it off the corner nice and smoothly. Manage the gap is the message. He gets into it so well from Mark Dutton. It's one of the real key advantages, and the click, that camaraderie that he and his engineer have got is very, very good.
Tander's back in the pit lane, by the way. Now, the other thing about it here is, top left, about Jamie and that rapport that you described, is that, remember I said that they wouldn't get that car home on fuel from that stop earlier. So now they've had to come in for a quick splash. The impressive thing about Jamie is not just these good days, but it's how he manages the bad days. So Matty described it, you described it, I talked about it yesterday. You know, by Jamie's standard, it was a bit of a shocker. But what does a shocker yield for Jamie? It's a third.
Yeah,
so if you can come away from your shockers with thirds and fourths and fifths, or even anywhere in the top 10, you're banking towards the championship. And that's the bit that he's got very squarely sorted in his mind in the way in which he approaches it. And it sounds like a silly thing to say, but you know, the winning part of it, managing that, isn't as hard as managing the downside. It's the downside qualified stuff. It's those days where you're 15th or you're DNF and trying to reduce that risk and get that number further north. That's the one that you've got to concentrate on for a lot of these guys.
Very true. It was interesting to see that in-car shot with Jamie, as you were describing it, Scafey, back in that rhythm, that easiness with which he does it. Effectively, it's taken over 300 kilometres worth of racing across the weekend, plus all your practice sessions and your qualifying sessions to get the car to that mode.
Yep. And now, in a position where he is genuinely the fastest car in the race. He's got a 4-second lead over Van Gisbergen. Way back now to 6.7 seconds to Davison. And Neil's point is really right. To win the races sometimes is easy. On the bad days, to get the best result the car can deliver is the hard part, and it's the part that you've got to be professional about. It would have been a bitter pill to swallow for Whincup yesterday to accept that FPR had better pace. But you've got to get the result. Even in the opener for the telecast this morning, Will Davison said, on your bad days, you've got to get your best result. And that's the essence of this championship.
Could have been such a much better day for Mark Winterbottom. He had control of the race. He had the race lead. It was all going well for him. And then an error in pit lane.
So there's a couple of curiosities that we'll resolve. One is why Frosty couldn't get that car away. We'll get to the bottom of that. But the other one for me is that mid-stint for Will Davison. What was it? Was it wrong pressures with tyres? It's wrong settings with the roll centre with the car? It just wasn't right, was it? Because when you allow Team Vodafone and their guy in car number 1 to rotate at turn 4, spin round, takes 5 seconds to gather it all back up. I know with a safety car intervention, but to let him off the hook to that extent means that you've got to really try. Oh, look at this. Looks very damaged at the back now, doesn't it? So when you let him off the hook to that extent, you've really got to analyse that.
I totally agree, and that's a really good way to review it, because honestly, Jamie in his heart of hearts would not expect to win this race today when you've spun by yourself at the hairpin. You just think, one of those races to say, I made a mistake, I'm not going to win this race today. And he went back to 5th when that happened. So the other mistakes and the things that have changed have evolved in a way that have advantaged Jamie Whincup. As you see the Pepsi Max Commodore coming in there now. As we said, Gregory Murphy not in the car this weekend. Great to see Murph back in New Zealand, and clearly big troubles for Kelly Racing Commodore.
Switch it off.
I've been turning it off. I've been turning it off.
Go in the garage, mate.
I think he has, mate.
Yeah. Anyway, when they're that buggered, it doesn't really matter that much.
Is that a technical term again?
4.5 second gap now, Whincup to Shane Van Gisbergen, so he's actually eased it out even further.
Let's drive the be cautious of the hairpin again. 4.2 to car behind you, stay cautious here.
Mark Dutton saying that, meaning that there might be oil out of the back of the Pepsi Max Commodore that'll be traced on the road there. You've got to look for that. The way you see it in the sunlight, that in the afternoon, is it's slightly shiny. It'll pick up there you go. That'll be on the road, and you'll have to be very, very careful, because that at the hairpin or at turn 6, there'll be a little stripe on the road that the guys will identify, and you run the wheels down either side of it. You've got to make sure that you do not grab the oil. So easy late in the race with the sun as it is to make that little mistake.
You're just having trouble, just cautious around.
Gee, that was a lot of oil, so that confirms that there's definitely going to be oil on the racetrack. So is Shane now struggling on this tyre set? 4.6 seconds gap first to second. And if even with only a few kilometres to run, Will Davison gets the sense that you can take a risk and try and catch him and put a move on him, he'll have a go for it. Those points are worth the chase.
No doubt, so it's 1.9 seconds back to Davison. So Will will be trying very hard to get to Van Gisbergen with only a couple of laps to run. I think one of the explanations of the Will Davison tyre performance or car performance in that critical phase of the race is they probably didn't tune from the hard tyre to the soft tyre well enough for that part of the race. It really cost them today. They were not fast enough when it was in a critical phase of the race.
And if anything, Winterbottom was the other way around. He struggled a bit on the harder tyre. When he went onto the softer tyre, he was quick. What hurt him was the launch. And Tim actually confirmed that with us in the conversation.
Final lap, stay from behind. Last lap, 2 seconds to Davison. Last lap.
So the first voice, Mark Dutton, the second voice, David Stewart. And talking to their drivers, Whincup and Van Gisbergen, reassuring them of the margins to the flag here. This is Whincup, hairpin last time.
And he will coast it home. Shane van Gisbergen will hold on for second. His highest finish of the year, and Will Davison will find himself on the podium yet again. And sometimes this man makes winning look easy, but this weekend was a much different story. Whincup had to fight for this victory. And he said it very clearly. That was a victory he didn't expect.
Great turnaround, good job.
And that's what Jamie Whincup has a habit of doing. Okay, for Shane van Gisbergen, that sets up a nice run to his home event in Hamilton in 3 weeks' time. So Giz has got good pace early on in the season.
We've got no fuel, so we're running on fumes. Just take it easy,
very
everybody.
very honest appraisal from all the guys. Thanks for putting up with me. Very tough weekend. Mark Dutton, even with the spin, we got away with it. So I reckon we'll need to review it properly, because sometimes you can kid yourself into a victory, and today that assessment was very, very valid.
Yeah, there was no sugarcoating. No, was there. Same with these guys yesterday. No sugarcoating. Jamie Whincup knows that this has been a hard weekend. The car isn't how he wanted it to be. Somehow he's managed to hold on today for a 5-second win over Shane van Gisbergen and Will Davison in third spot. So Mark Winterbottom, at one stage leading the race comfortably, ends up in 5th. Michael Caruso 7th. As we mentioned, he started in 22nd position, so the run of the race for him. Tony D'Alberto 15th. Michael Patrizzi for Techno Autosports in 17th. And Garth Tander, David Wall down the back end of the field, and a big DNF next to Craig Lowndes' name being crunched at turn 4. More to unfold on that one over the course of the night, the next few days, you reckon. So they head back in.
Copy that.
Another race win makes him the all-time winningest driver at this circuit. Goes ahead of Garth Tander and Peter Brock. His 8th race victory at Simmons Plains.
See how hard they are to drive along in first gear, leaping along. Very difficult things to do. We say it all the time, leaving the pit area in first gear, that must be easy, but they're hard to drive. They don't run very nicely.
And they don't have a horn, so what Jamie had to do there was give it a blip, because Jimmy Stone was wandering through the pit lane there, so had to give him the zoom, zoom, zoom to get him out of the way. There it is again. It's a great drive and a great performance. Great comeback for this young guy.
He's very composed, Neil, isn't he? He's got a very professional, slow sort of manner about him. When he's at his very best, you can just see it just all happens in a very flowing, really accurate way. The boys.
Look. So in terms of the championship, that's brought him back a little bit closer to Will Davison. Unofficial, but 18 points now is the gap from Will back to Jamie, which is what it was heading into this weekend.
Hey, Jamie Whincup, some victories just seem a bit more special than others. Today seemed like one of those.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't want to go through all the dribble and everything, but we had a tough weekend all in all. So to come away with that, I was a little bit shocked that the car hasn't been 100%, but we put in our best performance when it counted. We
chatted just after lunchtime, and you said you were feeling a little bit angry after qualifying. Yeah. That might work for you.
Yeah, no, it's crazy how this sport works. You know, nothing's been going right all weekend, and then we walk away with a win and a third, you know, so awesome points. So we'll take that. Of course, I don't want to dwell on the negatives, but there's a few things we can improve on this weekend, and we'll improve on that and come out stronger next time.
It'll be hard to improve on that spin down at turn 4. Do you want to talk us through that?
When in doubt, you just nail the throttle, and lucky enough it spun up and got me around. And the rears were shot after that, so I was just hanging for a pit stop.
Well done, mate. Enjoy the podium.
Thanks, Brett. This one's sweet.
Congratulations to Jamie Whincup. Shane van Gisbergen in second place. Shane, well done. A tough day. Yep. How do you balance that between chasing down Jamie and trying to stay ahead of Will? That was difficult.
Yeah, it was pretty tough. We were saving fuel at one point and trying to push, but Jamie, that's a pretty good job to spin out and come back like that, but we're pretty stoked. We didn't quite have the pace yesterday, but today we're pretty good.
And nice going into one of your favourite rounds in Hamilton from here on.
Yeah, it's pretty good lift for the boys. It's great to get back on the podium. We were good at Albert Park, good here, so see how we go next week.
And we should mention too, your boss's birthday today. That's a nice present to give him, to Ross Stone.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. I hope he's happy with it, and he'll be having a few beers tonight, I'm sure.
I reckon he will be, Shane. Congratulations, well done. Enjoy the podium. And to Will Davison, our championship leader. Will, congratulations, and another great result. Just keeps you there, just chipping away at that championship.
Yeah, it's obviously great to be Trading Post Falcon to be back on the podium again today. That was obviously a bit tougher than yesterday's race, but to hang on was great. I feel bad for the boys. I think Frosty really deserved to win then. I'm not sure what happened, but congratulations to Jamie and Shane. And as I said, it's a great haul of points, another podium. It's a bit of a shame to have a touch with Lowndesy there early, which you never want to see that.
Will, take us through that from your point of view. What happened down there?
I don't know. I mean, I knew he was obviously behind me, and when you're behind someone, your brakes go away, they get very hot, and you know, I didn't really know where he was. I knew he was sort of on my right there somewhere, and I just felt the hit, and that was that. And
you battled through that, legs giving you a bit of trouble throughout the race. Did yesterday as well?
Yeah, it's not ideal. It's not very comfortable. It's a very tough braking track around here, and yeah, that's hard yakka when you can't feel the damn thing. So we'll sort it out.
All right, jump up there and enjoy that podium. Will, well done.
Thanks. Cheers. Thanks.
May need some help getting up there. That tingly foot sensation. And it's remarkable how he does the job. So one of the most even starts, well, the most even start we've seen all year between Lowndes and Davison off the start as we run you through the race for highlights.
And this is that phase in the race where Frosty had the hard tyre and he was struggling a bit. How's this? Jamie just spoke about it. Had to take evasive action, full rotation. In the process, only drops 5 seconds on his lap time, and away he goes.
That's not bad, is it? You do a victory burnout during the race.
Yeah, that's right. That's right, a bit ahead of the game. So, water leaking from the water brake system on Craig Lowndes' car. A couple of moments here down at turn 2. This one was very awkward, Davison and Lowndes. No room on the outside for Lowndes, and he climbed over him and broke the front left suspension on that car, and the pole sitter was out of business and stuck observing.
Here's Jonathan Webb giving the Jack Daniels entry of Todd Kelly a bit of a touchdown at turn 7. Around here at 6, where Shane Van Gisbergen was on the march and Will Davison was heading backwards. Critical moment for Mark Winterbottom. And frustration all over his face as well. He delayed reaction getting out of there. They're still trying to figure out what happened. Jamie Whincup just got out of there. Gartander got into it. It's just another typical day at Simmons Plains.
And a lot of that stuff that you see down at the hairpins, all the brake-related stuff that we've spoken about all weekend. How was this? This is a wild exchange. Fabian Kildare just went from being third in that queue to first in about 5 seconds.
This was the moment where Whincup was just totally at ease and at one with the car, back into his old rhythm, his old routine, where there's no fight between driver and machine. And in the end, it's a 5-second victory, an unexpected victory on his behalf. But funnily enough, we've come to expect it, and I'm sure you two at home as well have come to expect that from this man. So Van Gisbergen second and Will Davison in third spot. So the championship, 18 points now is the difference. He got it out to 39 after yesterday. Mark Winterbottom in third spot there, and Shane Van Gisbergen also getting a good haul of points this weekend. So let's go to the podium with Mark Beretta.
Round 4 of our V8 Supercar Championship for 2012, the 2012 Tasmania Challenge podium presentation time. Would you please congratulate in first place for Team Vodafone, Jamie Whincup. In second place for SP Tools Racing, Shane Van Gisbergen. In third place for Ford Performance Racing, Will Davison. And representing our winning team, Team Vodafone, is David Couchy. Making the presentation to third place, Shane Howard, our Chief Operating Officer for V8 Supercars. Making the presentation to second place is David Malone, our Chief Executive Officer of V8 Supercars. Presenting the trophy to the winning team is Brian Green, the Deputy Premier of this great state of Tasmania. And making the presentation to our winner, Jamie Whincup, is Lara Giddings, the Premier of Tasmania. Ladies and gentlemen, the 2012 Tasmania Challenge Race 4 winners.
And it's good to see the Premier here offering her support. More than 50,000 people have attended this event. We were only here 4 months ago at the end of last year, and Jamie Whincup had so much success that weekend, and he's doubled it up on this Sunday as the sun slowly starts to set in Launceston. And they take it when they get it. They had to work hard for this one.